Welcome to the Home CEO podcast, where less mess, less stress equals more success in our homemaking journey. Now, we are your village here. That village you always thought you were going to have. Where was it? It's right here now, and it's all on this podcast. And we're kicking it off talking about a relationship between mom and daughter and family. You know her simply as my mom, Pam, but in this Heartfelt episode, we're taking a closer look at the emotional landscape of a mother-daughter relationship. Join us as we delve deep into our connection, dish out pearls of motherly wisdom suitable for both sides, and discuss the importance of setting healthy boundaries. Buckle up and grab your tissues. It's going to be a ride filled with tear-jerking moments, a wealth of advice, and plenty of love. Expect laughter, a few sniffles, and lots of heartfelt chats that might make you want to give your own mom a call. Let's go.
Hi, Nicole. Thanks for having me today.
Did you get your headphones on okay? You got the technology?
I did. I think I'm doing it right. I'm like, you know how I'm technology challenged. But I always tell you and your brother, hey, I taught you to use a spoon. So now you got to be a little patient with me.
That is a very good point. Like, I helped you walk. So there you go. We are going to deep dive the mother-daughter relationship today, and I thought, who best to have on here to discuss this than my own mother? Her and I are very close. As you see us traveling the world from Paris to little girl trips in Arizona, we've really made it a essential part of our mother-daughter relationship through all of the years. And the biggest thing for me, or one of the greatest gifts I felt like, was a give back is our daughter's middle name is Pam. And we did that because we really wanted to accentuate the mother-daughter bond. And we did the same with our son, the father-son bond. And I just thought, who better than to tell it how it is than my mother? So, and you always ask for more of her. So I'm giving you more of her now. We're going to dive into tricky questions right away, the hard questions right away. And they're going to be more about us. And then we're going to get into some just good tips and tricks and advice on how to continue the bond of mom-daughter or mom. We're going to stick to mom-daughter. Okay. One thing that would have made it easier to raise me.
Seriously, if I hadn't said yes to you playing travel soccer, took out so much time that we could have been traveling the East Coast on the weekends. And I know it was great for you, but selfishly, it was every spring, summer, fall being out on that soccer field. And it was like 4 times a week. So I think that would have made it a little easier on me. But I loved watching you play. I was always cheering you on. All the other moms were like, quiet. They're trying to concentrate. It's like, no, I'm cheering my daughter on. Don't tell me to stop. So, but you know, there would have been other benefits had you not played. But you know, now I see you watching your son, and you're like, this is the greatest joy for me to watch him play. I relate to it so much. So I'm like, well, that must have been the reason behind it all. So
it's so funny because I'm always telling my husband, like, why are we playing all these sports? Like, is he going to go off and be like a professional soccer player? And it's a good reminder that it probably taught me other life lessons, but it is a massive time commitment for parents. And I think a lot of parents can definitely understand what you're talking about. It's like having to share them with something else besides school. I definitely feel that with my kids. I'm like, when do I get my kids? You know?
Right. Yeah. And then if you have more than one, you've got other sports. So it really can be a little inundating sometimes, but.
Totally. Okay. What is the hardest and greatest part of having me as your daughter?
So I think the hardest part is really just having you live further away now, because we each have our families that we have to consider, and we have to make a lot of time to plan ahead. And sometimes the men in our lives are not always about planning ahead.
It's true.
We have to be very creative how we do that. And I know with the kids' schedule and school, you know, everybody's lives get busier. So you really have to sort of make it a big commitment to do that. And so it's hard. You know, we can talk every day, and that's great. You know, I'm talking to my friends and they're like, what you do all day? And I'm like, well, I talked to Nicole like 4 times. And they were like, 4 times? What are you guys talking about? I'm like, nothing. We're talking about I'm making coffee right now. You know, do you use a filter or not? Because I don't like, we're just talk about nothing, and whatever we're doing in the day. But it still doesn't take the place of us being able to be together. If you live, you know, just down the street, could see you, give you a hug, just that face-to-face contact in real life has been probably hard. So the greatest thing is all our fun girl trips. We started kind of small. We were like, let's just go to this little resort down the street and just do a weekend, and then it just blossomed. It was like, okay, maybe we should try like a week away, maybe in Hawaii. How about that? So it just became more fun because I just found that, sitting on a beach, relaxing, talking all day was something maybe my husband wasn't as interested in doing. So I was like, I have a solution. And we had a great time doing it. And so those were just the fun moments. And when the kids came along, we continued. But then we didn't get as much talking time. So, when we'd wake up late in the night, I'd be like, are you awake? And you'd be like, yeah, I'm awake. And then we just start talking for like an hour or two in the middle of the night because we had to carve out our time some way or another. So those were the greatest moments. And we always made it work. So it was great.
That is so true. I think the hardest part of staying connected but living far away is very valuable. I think a lot of people go through that because everyone has their own microclimate. And when you merge two families together, you've got people all over the place and where to go and what to do. But we do a great job of that because you and I are at the helm. It is true. Everyone has their own idea about that. And then the girl trips are the best. I have said this from the get, which is when you became a mom, another very important relationship in your life, especially for me, was my mom. And I always wanted to make it a point that her and I still have a relationship, even though I had kids. Just because I became a mom didn't mean that my mom just became a helper or just became grandma. We also needed to continue our relationship as well. So I high five, Mom. We've done a good job of that. What is the most important lesson that your mother taught you that you wanted to pass on to me? And I'll preface this by saying my grandma Ruth is the one who taught me a lot of like my kitchen tips, and she was a big cook and, taught herself. And my mom was more of like the hostess, a great cook, but doesn't love to cook, but likes to do it to entertain. And my grandma just had a very different life than my mom and then of me, but she definitely taught us both a lot. So what's the most important lesson your mother taught you that you wanted to pass on to me?
I think really that my mom, she worked hard alongside my dad. So there was a lot of, serious times, but she had a great sensitivity to her girls.
It's okay. Take a moment.
But anyway, she had a great sensitivity. And she would just do really selfless things out of the blue. I remember my aunt had only 4 pieces of pie for the adults only. Can you imagine?
No.
And my mom said, you know what? I'm really not. I really don't want mine on full. So she put me in her lap and let me eat the pie. So
very much grandma. And I will say Grandma Ruth did not share dessert very well. So this is a big moment because Grandma Ruth was the sweet tooth of the family, which is where my daughter gets hers from.
big on baking. And me too, probably, because I got all that pie. But those kinds of selfless acts, I really noticed, and they stood out in my mind because, there's different sides to your mom and the way you think of your mom. And then whenever you see that, you just think, you know what, that really shows great sensitivity and a big heart down deep.
Yeah, I think, well, you definitely have taught me that. It's core to my family and my life for sure, especially with everything that, we all do in our family unit. But I think that is number one, be kind. Grandma also had a great saying was you can't worry about it until it happens. And I feel like that is something I say every single day to myself. I think being a mother creates a lot of worry, unnecessary worry, just because we have this great responsibility to raise these children or child. And I think of her daily when she used to say, like, can't worry about it until it happens. And I think that's probably why she lived until her 90s.
Yeah. Yes. I used to fret over things and she would say, don't worry about it, until there's something to worry about.
That's right. I know there's so much more on Grandma we could get into, but I just wanted to make sure we touched base with her because I think you do learn a lot from your mother and you carry it on, right? So
yeah, and I like talking about her, but I don't want to mess up my makeup anymore. So
that's fair. I went on very light specifically for this podcast. Do not layer on your mascara, Nicole. Just have it a little light today. Okay, so with that, what advice would you give to new mothers about building strong relationships with their daughters?
Oh, start young. Start from day one, really. All that closeness you can find looking at all their little emotional and social and physical development and anticipating what they're going through and being ready for the next step is just so key to just having, that patience and understanding for them. Whenever you were young, I got into this little parenting group, and it was so helpful because they talked about like what our babies and children were going to be doing 2 or 3 months down the road. And they said, at 6 months, they're going to be doing this. And, if they were going to be dropping everything to learn about space, it was like, you have to anticipate the problems or the development and how to handle it so that you're prepared and you're not frustrated with them that they keep dropping things. And that helped so much. And that carried all the way through, even into adulthood, anticipate those next steps. Start young so you can understand them, so you can give them the support, so you can, show that you're there for them and that you understand their feelings and what they're going through and be prepared. So I think that's the best advice I can give young moms. It goes by in the blink of an eye. It's true what they say, but you really have to try to cherish every moment, any moment that you have, and think ahead and always be thinking about what you want to develop next with them and how you want to, just cherish that relationship with them.
I would say mine's so similar, which is meet them where they're at, right? Wherever their development is, meet them where they're at. Don't try to push them ahead or meet standards that society says you have to meet. Be intuitive, use that mom instinct that hits immediately when you start even carrying, a little one. I remember finding out that we were having a girl and thinking, oh, I've got this. And I can tell you that my daughter keeps me more on my toes than my son.
Yes.
So don't think that you know it better just because you lived, that life female. Like there is a lot of just meet them where they're at. Now my daughter pushes me. She's like, I'm going to wear this outfit to school. And it's, leather boots and a leather jacket. And I'm over here in like my pink and pastels. And I meet her where she's at. I say, you go right ahead. This is your life, your identity, and your destination. So that's something that you've always done with me. You've always met me where I'm at, whether I'm off to college, whether I'm married, whether I'm a mom. You've always met me at the place in life. And I think, like you said, it starts young. Meet them where they're at. Can you share a moment where you were particularly proud of our relationship?
Yes, I was just thinking about these kind of moments. And I thought back on some, but there was one just recently that stood out. And whenever we were at the Elton John concert, I think he was singing your song, and you just kind of put your arm around me and held me. And I said, we were just talking about it later. And you said, you're my best friend. And I said, oh, why? And you said, because you're my mom and I love you. And it was just a really cute moment that just came spontaneously. It was serendipitous. We were just at this concert, and it just sort of solidifies everything that we're always feeling, but we don't always do or say. And it was just a great moment.
I loved that moment. And I loved sharing that trip with everybody on social because it was one of those times where like we booked those tickets like in the bathroom before we flew out to Paris. I was like, Elton John, we're going to Elton John. You were like, we're going to who? And I feel like Elton John was like something I grew up.
I was like, how are you going to get the tickets? That's all the way in Paris. You were like, I have a phone. I can do it. It's like, if you can do it, have at it. I will not be able to do it.
We just did it. And I remember that because he started singing that song. And I was like, this song is just like my mom to me. And I love those moments. I love all of our trips. I love all those moments. There's so many. I would say there's been times recently, even early on in my life, I think one of my most proud moments was being able to tell you about our daughter's middle name because I just felt like it was so generational and really profound in our relationship to like, it was something I could give back. And there are a lot of times where you're like, oh, I can give a gift or I can buy her this or I can, take her on a trip. I think trips are important because it's creating memories. But I think that's probably one of my most proud moments was being like, I love you so much that we're this going. And for me, that was probably one of my most proud moments. So,
and it was really sweet because it was actually your husband that you let him do it. So
yeah, I was holding her, I think.
One of those selfless moments, like you would have loved to have done it, but somehow you thought, this is going to mean a lot to him. You knew he wanted to do it. So he told me and, it was a great sharing moment. So
my sensitive, sweet, empathetic husband. Yeah. Hiya, CEOs. Are you craving the absolute best meat on the market and the kind that's raised right and tastes like a dream? Well, welcome to Good Ranchers. This is one of those I've done the homework so you don't have to, where they don't just serve up meat. They deliver a promise of quality and integrity straight to your kitchen table. Every cut from Good Ranchers is 100% American, supporting local farmers and ensuring you serve only the best sustainable raised meat to your family. So forget the imports. It's time for homegrown goodness. So join me in bringing true quality back to the American table with Good Ranchers, where every bite supports a local farmer and every meal is guaranteed to be delicious. Good Ranchers is the official sponsor and freezer staple for the home CEO and Nicole Jakes. Now, let's get back to the show. How do you think our communication style has evolved over the years? What changes have you noticed?
Well, right now, I just think it's pretty easy. We just are so aligned on things. We always kind of had the same interests. We've always been chatty and girl talk and all that. But I think like in high school, I had to be a little bit more delicate about the way I approach things. And if you had, made up your mind about something, it was always just sort of talking about things, reasoning it through, giving you the support. But I was always careful not to try to be judgmental, let you find your own way. No, it's just like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Everything you do is great. Now you're perfect, Nicole. Everything is wonderful. See how it's evolved? So all that waiting and patience and tiptoeing past all those difficult decisions that you were going through in life and trying to communicate in a way that, really validated your feelings. But, maybe looked at the other side of the coin. So I just feel like it's so much easier now. So,
yeah, I would agree. I think I can only imagine. I feel like it kind of went from very early stages of puberty being like, Mom, what do I do? Or how do I handle this? To, okay, I'm going to try to handle this on my own and we'll see how that goes. And then, in my 20s, kind of that we're more friends, right? Than we are like you kind of hand holding me or telling me what I need to be doing. And then now it's just like, becoming a mom was a big one because there was a lot of need to not just like, how do I do this, Mom, but more of, I need a partner in this that's female, that's done it before, right? Like, this is what I think. Am I right? And you were like, yeah, it was kind of this collaboration. And now I just feel like we're those friends that are like, when are we booking our next trip? And like, when do I see you? And do you want to go out to eat or do you want to just stay in our pajamas and order room service?
Right. And we're just totally honest with each other.
Yes.
Very honest and open. I don't have to worry about like, oh, if I say something, is that going to affect the way that she grows into who she's going to be? It's like, you're already there. Once your kids get older and you launch them, it's like your work is done. And, that's all there is. That's all there is to it. So I think sometimes, parents still want to have a big influence in their adult children's lives. And it's like, your work's done. You did the most you could do. You did the best you could, given the circumstances. Everybody's upbringing is different. So just feel good about it and accept them and go with it, because that's the glory of launching your kids and then just having that close relationship with them once they're up and all grown up.
I agree. That's really well said. And I think it's actually probably made us closer as the years have gone on, because I have felt the freedom to be who I am and I have always felt accepted and supported. when I need it, but I also am given that like space to, run my show. And I think that that is something that I find just talking with my friends that a lot of parents or in-laws have a harder time doing. And the minute, hopefully they come around to that, hey, here's your independence, they gain more of a relationship than when they were trying to control the relationship. So well said. If you could ask me anything about our relationship or my perspective on something you did as a mom, what would it be?
I probably would ask you, what did you value from your grandparents that made your life good that I can do now as a grandparent?
That's a really good question.
Because I kind of think of the extended family and we have our relationship with you and your husband, and I have my relationship with you. And it's just sort of about this other nuclear family. And I think that whatever you valued as a grandparent maybe lends itself to, I'm just looking at, moving on and making memories and doing great, wonderful things. And, it's not just, about sitting around and watching the morning cute little programs or, going out for small little adventures. It's like, what is going to be our next step in what we do that you valued?
Your time at really making a large influence in their life is coming, because I feel like 0 to 6 and 6 to 12 are a real need to connect with your parent figures, mom and dad. And then 12 on is really the time I bonded the most with my grandparents. I relied on them for wisdom in cooking or romantic relationships or growing and just finding my own independence. And so for me, I think that is probably my answer, is that it's coming. 12 on will be a time for you to really be able to be a larger influence in the kids' lives, where they need an outside source from just mom and dad or the parent figures when they're seeking larger independence, because that's really when I bonded with my grandparents. What do you think societal expectations about mother-daughter relationship have affected our relationship, or have they?
I don't know that they have, because I really, would just feel pretty protective of my family. And even if it maybe went against the norm, I just felt that whatever I thought was right, I should be doing, as long as it was good and just. So, there are those outside influences that you have to deal with in terms of the things that are on the internet and trying to keep your kids safe and trying to manage those kinds of things. But I think for us, it was pretty streamlined in how it happened, that just each step came along the way. We had the ups and downs, but I don't think that there was any pressure from society to do things in a certain way. If there was, we would just break the mold and just do it the way that we wanted to do it, if we thought it was the right thing to do or a good thing to do. So I don't think it really did affect us a lot.
I don't think so either, but I think it can for a lot of relationships. As I talk to other females and their relationships with their mothers and how they kind of expect things to go, I kind of think, I wonder where that one came from. But I don't feel like it's affected us either. I agree. What has been the most challenging aspect of our relationship, and how have we worked through it? Because not always sunshine. We are two people and you raised me. So what has been the most challenging aspect of our relationship, and how have we overcome it?
Growing up, it was difficult, I think, moving around a lot. And although it was for the better good of the family in the long run, in the short run, it was difficult. And there were always challenges on how to bridge the gaps and make the transitions. And, resentments would happen, and those had to be worked through. I think every family probably, faces different kinds of challenges. But I think it's important to recognize it. Some want to just try to smooth over it and kind of sweep it under the rug and let's move on. But I think you sort of really have to vet it all out and get out all those feelings before moving on. And it's hard because there's struggles and difficulties, but it's important that you vet it out so that you can move on and get to a better place, and that there's no, harsh feelings in reserve left. And then move on to the next thing. And hopefully the next challenge or hardship isn't as bad as the last one because you've sort of dealt with that one completely at the time. So I think that was a big challenge up until finally, whenever we moved onto the West Coast. But then through all those moves, I think facing changes, moving on to college and transitions into adulthood really helps to see, things are always changing. So you always have to be ready for the next step. And although there's going to be excitement and fun and new adventures, there's also going to be some things that are difficult and hard, and kind of creates that skill set to be able to approach those things in life. So I think that was really challenging and surprising.
Yeah, I think moving for kids is a stressful period. Even if it's just down the block in a new house, changing schools can be a stress. It can also be a great opportunity, which moving to California was definitely for us. And as my brother and I look back on our childhood, that was definitely a highlight. But in the moment, it was not. And it definitely posed, like you said, resentments or different feelings amongst, why are my parents doing this? And how can they make me do this? And that was a tricky time. You're right. And we did overcome it. You were very good at listening. You were very good at understanding. You really tried to give us the best environment to work through those feelings, because they're confusing when your brain is growing and you're trying to get through puberty and you're moving. It was a lot. I agree.
Right.
In what ways do you think I've influenced your life or decisions? So just to give you some background, my mom has this thing where she calls me Florence, like Florence Nightingale, because she's always like, oh, you helped dress me. Oh, like my sponge is now the kind you use. And now I'm using the cleaners you use. And I love this new face serum that you introduced me to. She's like, you literally...
That has been, yes, very recent, because, I think during the pandemic, everybody got really concerned about healthcare. Everybody was looking about, gee, how can we make ourselves safer? What can we do? We never really thought about that. And you sort of took on this protection of, if I was sick and you noticed it, you took on being like a mother figure to me. My parents were sick with the flu, and I was taking care of them, and I got sick with the flu. And you said, Mom, you go out and get yourself the help you need, because you are the one that is giving everything, and you need to pay attention to yourself. And nobody else was telling me that. Not my parents, not my husband, not my son. And so anytime now that there's something going on, you're always like, Mom, you need to think about yourself first. You need to really consider what you need, and don't be so selfless, or don't overlook your needs. And that's been a great influence, and just sort of watching over me. And so that's why I call you Florence, because like Florence Nightingale, she had this outpouring for, the sick and helpless. So I'm like, oh, if I'm sick and helpless, I know who will help me. It's Florence.
This is just me prefacing to take care of you when you're older, which my mom's always like, I won't do that to you. But I'm always like, no, I'm like, there's a continuation of relationship. It's just so interesting how life has a cycle. But maybe that's one of them. Or is there something else you want to share?
And just your sociability. I think you've taught me to be more social. And I always want friends and like friends and want to meet new people. But just ever since you were little, you were very social. You could talk to anybody with great ease, and they loved listening to you and talking to you. I just watched you do that. And so as I got older into my later adulthood, I've just sort of taken on your persona, and I can sort of just see how to talk to people and what to talk to them about and what interests to have in them. And so I think that you influenced me to be more adaptable socially. So, and I think it just sort of happened. It just sort of rubbed off on me or something. It wasn't like I actively did it. Sometimes we're out and Mark goes, you're really great conversationalist. What's happening to you? I used to be the great conversationalist. I could hardly even think about what to talk about. And you just like carried the whole conversation through the whole dinner, and they were just like loving it. And I was like, no, I guess I've just been around Nicole so much that kind of caught on.
So those times you and I go out and I'm like talking to the person on the airplane and you're like, okay, I guess I'll read my book. And
I know. I'm like, come on, remember, this is the girls' trip. Like, it's not about them, it's about me.
There's always a couple when we're on vacation together that are like, are you guys like sisters? Which is definitely a compliment, but also they'll want to talk with us or they'll see us out, even if we're with my kids too. I feel like we're kind of this like, who are these women together?
And you're the first one that jumps in talking and the last one to leave the conversation. And I'm like, come on, let's go. I really want my daughter back now. It's my time, okay? I share her with a lot of others. It's my time now.
That's so true, though. And then I'm like, oh, look, there's Timothy and Jane. Again, let's go say hi. And you're like, oh, my gosh, can we just have dinner?
I know. Or you got to get us some coffee. And I'm like, where's Nicole? And it's like 15 minutes later, I go around the corner. You're chatting with the new couple. Mom, you got to meet this couple. I'm like, okay.
You know, I'm a firm believer in that aspect that like these micro kind of conversations or connections with other humans are always beneficial. And they pop up at like a time in which you're supposed to encounter these people. And I try to kind of live my life that way. But you are right. I will go through like the drive-through and I'll be ordering a coffee or something. And my mom's on the phone with me and I'm talking to the barista. And she's like, okay, well, you know, the next time I go through, my mom's like, was that Kimberly, the barista that you always talk to? I'm like, yeah, it was. Like,
and that usually happens about the time it's my turn in the conversation to share like what's been going on with me. Like we get on the phone and you go through the whole spiel and I'm listening because that's one thing I've learned with your child. What you do is you listen first. You do not talk first. You listen a lot and you wait for your turn. And it might not come in a lot of conversations. I've had full-on conversations with you and it's like I get off and I go, oh, I didn't get to tell her about this or that or that. But you know what? Listening was more important at that time. But I'll be listening and then I'll say, oh, I had a really crazy thing happen yesterday. And you're like, hi. Yeah, just a minute, Mom. I got to put in my order. I'm like, of course she's got to put in the order now.
That's so funny.
Right.
Are there any special traditions we have or activities we share that have helped strengthen our bond beyond travel? Because we definitely connect over travel and seeing new places. But beyond traveling and taking girl trips.
Well, whenever you say traditions, it makes me think of holidays. I got to think about those traditions for a minute.
I can tell you this. I don't think there's many traditions we stick to. I think our flexibility and understanding that one year may look like this and the next year may look like this is actually probably one of the best quote unquote traditions we have that has really kind of strengthened our bond because you're very understanding that every holiday may not be spent in California or you guys coming up or with my in-laws. Sometimes holidays are what are supposed to be quote unquote traditions are just me and my husband and my kids. And there's this flexibility in quote unquote traditions that I think strengthens our bond because we understand it. And it's kind of unspoken, like we're not going to celebrate holidays or traditions or, you know, when we are together, not have out grandma's silver or something like that. But that it doesn't have to be on the day. There's this flexibility in our relationship to understand that we can celebrate at any time. And I think it's strengthened our bond because it puts less pressure on that we have to stick to something or it's going to hurt someone's feelings or not be a tradition.
That's absolutely true because early on it would depend, you know, Christmas came on a certain day, but maybe that wasn't convenient. So maybe we just backed it up or pushed it back, pushed it forward. So we were always flexible about it. And, you know, Thanksgiving maybe is not always around a Thanksgiving table. We've said, hey, maybe one year we just go to the Macy's Day Parade. We don't have to have Thanksgiving around a table. So we've always been flexible about not falling into habits of having to do things at certain times in certain ways and just creating new kinds of traditions and celebrations in different ways to sort of make it more festive or make it more interesting or make it more adaptable to everybody's schedule so that we can all enjoy it, because it's really about the enjoyment and not stressing out that it's got to be done in a certain way at a certain time. And we have to carry through with this tradition or it just won't be the same. So yeah, we've been really flexible about changing up, kind of the ways we do things and carrying on traditions that can always be done in a different venue, in a different way, at a little different time. And it can still be just as special. So I think that's being untraditional is a great tradition that we've set.
That strengthened our bond. Yes, 100%.
Right.
If we could take a dream trip together, which we clearly like to do, but our next dream trip, just the two of us, where would we go and why?
I love a beach break with you. I loved when we went to Tahiti and Moorea and we just looked at all the fish and got in the water. Maybe we would do something really big, go to the Greek islands together and just enjoy the beauty of those Greek islands, in the fall when it's not so hot, or in the early spring. Yeah, I think that would be a great one. I was going to say the Maldives, but I just can't go that far on an airplane. So I'll take Greece. That would be just far enough and pretty beautiful, I'd say. So, but I love going on beach vacations with you because that's what you and I love. There's nothing to do. It's just us talking. But, it may evolve into other things where we want more excitement and, big cities and lots of great ancient ruins and architectural sites to see. So I don't know. Yeah. I think that might be mine. What would be yours?
I wanted to say the Maldives or something of the such, but I have a feeling I'm going to go research some fun island for us to take a trip to. I think being by water is crucial. And on these trips that we do take, we always read the same book so we can talk about it, which I think is like a really fun thing that we do. And we pack some like matching pajamas because we love being in our cozies. And
I'm always sunglasses.
Yes. I'm always like, not you bring like this item, and this item, and I'll bring this item and this item. And we co-pack together, which I think makes it really fun. I would love to see us somewhere in Europe. I thought our Paris trip was just perfection. And I think Greece sounds great because of the culinary aspect and being by the water. I could totally see that in our future. That or like Croatia or Capri or something, but it has to be by the water. I agree. Yeah. You like that loungy kind of a girl trip. That's definitely what we like to do.
Small, no big splashy place. So I agree. Something smaller and intimate, and absolutely.
Anything we didn't cover that you think we should before we wrap up?
Gosh, there's so many things.
I know.
I just think, about motherhood, it's really important to, listen to your daughters and to really hear them out without judging them and not jumping to conclusions right away, and just listen and help them through their problems and be there and really validate their feelings, because they may be feeling angry and that may seem unreasonable, but to be like, now, don't be so mad, or, you're going to have to get over that. That doesn't help to say, I can understand you being really mad about that situation. And I think that is really important to help girls grow into good, strong women, and to validate their feelings and to then look at how to help them move on. And I just think it happens so young in girls. I just remember you being in 4th grade and these things coming up. And I thought, oh no, not already. This can't be happening. And it really was a big eye opener to me. So I just think you have to be ready and have your game plan down as to how to deal with that. And then all the fun and loving and great moments with your daughters will come about. I just think that lays a great foundation. So that's the main thing. I just think, early foundations are so crucial.
I will tell you one thing that you always do is pick up your phone. And if you don't, I'm like, oh my gosh, is she okay? Like, do I need to send the FBI out? But I'll tell you that in these years, especially like college and on, it is really important when your kids aren't at home to just pick up the phone. Even if you're like, hey, I'm in the grocery store, let me call you back in 5 minutes. There's something about that that really allows for this support that's unwavering that really comes from a parent. And I take motherhood, especially with my daughter, differently than my son. But I know that through my motherhood journey, letting her know that I am there to support and love her and provide a safe environment while she walks her path is important. It's not my path to walk. I'm walking my own path. And they can be very close together and you can always cross paths and make memories together, but it's her path there. I am there to support, love, and keep it as safe as I can without controlling it. You taught me that.
Yeah, I think availability is crucial. I'm not a night owl. I'm early to rise, early to bed. But, during high school and those late night parties, I was like, you're going to have to be out whenever she gets home so she can talk to you if she needs to. And so, if you're not a night owl, you're going to have to get prepared to be one sometimes. But then that too passes. And then it goes back into another different set of circumstances. But availability is crucial. It shows you're important. They're always there. You're going to be there for them. So it just solidifies the importance of the relationship. So true.
Okay, now we're in the part of the show where we do truth or dare. And we do this because being a home CEO, you're constantly having to pivot. And obviously, motherhood and your relationship with your children is all part of being the home CEO, if that is the path that you've chosen. So, Mom, truth or dare? You get to choose truth or dare.
Oh, and then do I have to tell the truth or what's the dare?
Yep, I'm going to ask you a question. You have to tell the truth. And if you choose dare, then you have to do whatever I ask you to do.
Oh, okay. Truth. Okay, I'll do the truth. I'm totally comfortable with truth.
Okay, truth. Tell me the largest difference between raising a daughter versus raising a son and which is a more difficult relationship.
Okay, so having a daughter, you just think, okay, well, I know what to do with a girl. I'm going to dress her up and she's going to become my best friend whenever she grows up. So, and that's just something that I think having a daughter, you are going to relate to because you're both, girls, women. And so I think it seems easy on the offset of it. You just feel that way. Having a son, there's a unique relationship there. You just don't know what you're going to do with them. But, you have to sort of feel your way through that kind of relationship. And, you're fiercely protective at first. And then, but like all children, I think the common thing is that you love them, you allow them to grow, and then you prepare to let them go. And just know that you've done the best you can. So that's the commonality. But, a son, you just figure, how am I going to relate to him? I've watched many a ball game that I don't even understand what's going on, just to, have something to do with my son so that I'm at least, interacting with him, looking at his video game and understanding what he's playing. Tell me about what this guy's doing. I might not have a lot of interest, but I have to step outside my box in order to relate to a son. Whereas with a daughter, there just seems to be so many commonalities that are just easier to relate to.
I agree. I think I'm going through that right now. I'm like, okay, I need to pick up golf so I can have something to do with my son. Where with my daughter, I'm like, I can just be me. Whatever I want to do, she needs to do too.
Exactly.
And it is different. And I heard someone say a long time ago that having a son is the longest breakup of your life. And I feel that more days than not. And with my daughter, I just feel like, okay, we're going to have some ups and downs and we're going to work through them because there's a female bond there.
Yeah.
And you may turn out very different than me, and that's totally great. But I'm going to learn from you and you're going to learn from me. We're going to do it together. Whereas I constantly feel so in love with my son and I'm watching him have his first crush and love daddy and talk about daddy more than me. And I'm like, do you remember when you were just a baby and all you wanted to do was be with mommy?
Listen, I know I'm going through the biggest breakup right now because your brother's going to be getting married. And I'm like, wow, talk about a breakup. It is imminent. Being the most important woman in his life is, changing. And officially I'm not going to be the most important woman in his life anymore. So it is true. Whereas with you, whenever you got married, I thought, wow, I always had a full piece of the pie. Now somebody else just gets a bigger slice than I do now. I don't like this, but I'm going to have to work my way around it because I got to at least maintain my piece of the pie. So, but I never felt like, it was going to, diminish too greatly. But yeah,
Right.
it's just, the roles that we play in our children's lives and that they play in ours. So yeah, it's very different.
I love it. Well, thank you, Mom, for being on the podcast. I know
Thanks
that
for having me, Nicole.
it's sometimes outside your comfort zone. I'm like, can you do a Q&A on Instagram? And I have this whole career now, and you just totally dived in, and you've always met me where I'm at, which is so awesome because that's full circle to our combo. So.
I know. I don't always understand it. People ask me, I go, I don't understand what she does, but she just does it. I'm learning as we go. So once again, you're teaching me now. So role reversal.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode, Home CEOs. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did and found some nuggets of wisdom, or at least a good chuckle or a good cry. Remember to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on our next episode, which I promise brings more laughs, tips, tricks, and a sense of community with lots of enlightening moments. That's what we're here to do. This is the village you've been looking for. Until next time, keep smiling and stay curious. Shine your light wherever you go on those that are dim. They need it the most. Do something kind for somebody else and put a smile on their face. And move your body for someone who can't. In gratitude, you can. You are worthy. You are abundant. You deserve it. And you keep rocking your home like a biz. Cheers to more success, less stress, and less mess. I'll see you next time on The Home CEO.